The big question, is the A7C any good for shooting weddings?
Heads up in the clouds, and we're not coming down. I'll stay up here and enjoy the view as long as I'm with you.
Hi there guys, what's up? My name is Nick and welcome to my YouTube channel. Here we're going to be talking about the Sony A7C and my recent experience shooting a wedding over the past weekend. I'm going to go into a bit about the body, a bit about the specs, but nothing too in detail. But most of all, just sort of my experience. The big question, is the A7C any good for shooting weddings? In terms of photography, as the A7C, it features a 24.2 megapixel full frame sensor, so you're going to have no issues with those photos, okay? 24 megapixels is plenty enough. There are a few sort of things you have to give up in terms of the photography side. So first of all, in terms of memory cards, you only have one memory card slot, okay? So for a lot of people, this can be quite an issue. You do have your flip out screen, but you do have a smaller viewfinder, okay? That viewfinder has been taken away from the top and has now been put on the side in that range finder style. So you will have to get used to, obviously, shooting video, you mostly look at your screen anyways, but if you are going to be using this camera for photos predominantly, you are going to either have to get used to looking at the back of your screen or getting used to that different viewfinder. Okay, so more in terms of the video side of things, because I think that's where things get a little bit more interesting. People tend to ask a little more from their cameras when it comes to the video side and capabilities of a camera, especially lately with all the new cameras coming out. So I think in terms of weddings, we are used to shooting longer form videos in terms of capturing that ceremony, capturing those speeches, capturing those longer video sessions that you need to get. You need to have your camera running anything from an hour, hour and a half, depending on how long those ceremonies and speeches are going to be. So pretty much you need enough space. You don't need to be shooting 4K, but this camera is capable of shooting 4K. So let's just run through the video specs of the A7C real quick. So the A7C can record 4K video up to 30 frames per second. The camera also has a variety of video features, including slow motion. This would obviously be in 1080 all the way up to 120 frames per second. It has time-lapse options, then the picture profiles that you need. Obviously, it doesn't have the newer picture profiles, such as that S-Cinetone, S-Log3, and so on and so forth. You do have your HLG 1 and 2. You do have your S-Log2. And I do not use those picture profiles. I have used a custom picture profile and sort of tweaked that for myself to use in this camera. And that's going to bring me to my next point, is this camera is only 8-bit color. It does not have 10-bit in it like the newer cameras such as the Sony A7 IV and upwards, okay? So if you are going to be shooting S-Log2, generally you do struggle a bit more with just the 8-bit because you cannot stretch those colors as far as you need to. But as you can see, I mean, the 8-bit still looks great. You can still color grade it, you can still tweak it, and you can still get the looks that you want out of this camera. Obviously, you can also shoot that 4K, only up to 30 frames per second. But again, another thing with the A7C is the overheating. This camera will not overheat on you, okay? Much like the ZV-E1 as has just recently come out, this camera will overheat. The A7 IV has also been known to overheat when shooting in those higher frame rates. The Sony A7C has not had any issues. This thing will run. It does not have a record limit either. So much like if you have the A7 III still, that used to have that 30-minute record limit, this does not have that. So you'll be able to record your longer sessions, your ceremonies, without any issues in 4K. The only thing with this is more of the cinematic side of the video. You will only have 4K up to 30 frames per second, but then you can always just shoot your 1080 up to 120 frames a second, your 60 frames a second, whatever you want to get those slower moving cinematic shots that you are looking for. If you really need to, you can just downscale that 4K to 1080 and then you can deliver that as a final package. We have a few more pros for the Sony A7C. It is a very compact and lightweight package. This is not a big bulky camera. It does also have that flip out screen. So if you are going to be running gunning with this on a gimbal all day, it is nice and light, especially if you couple it with a lighter gimbal. So to hold this thing or to move around with this thing for an entire wedding is not that big of a deal. These two as a combo, you're gonna save your back. It's the same with photography. If you carry two bodies, generally also very lightweight setup. The heaviest thing will probably be your lenses. I'm currently using the Tamron lenses, so I have the 17-28 and the 28-75 f2.8. These, as far as what they are very lightweight lenses as well, and they make for a great compact setup for me. Another thing that is great with the Sony A7c is the Sony A7c II is rumored to come out very soon, or this year at least. So this camera will then be going for a lot cheaper. You'll be able to pick up a second-hand Sony A7c and get a very good price on it. So that is basically my review on the Sony A7c, a very nice short compact review. And just because I recently shot this wedding on the weekend, I thought I would just share sort of my thoughts on this camera and user experience and how I kind of found using this for a wedding and having that compact body. I think this is a fantastic camera for photographers and videographers, no matter what you guys are looking to create, okay? Especially for that social media content online, where you're not gonna need anything more than that 4K 30 or even 4K at this point. Otherwise, if you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It really helps if you'd like to see more content about video, about photos, and especially about the current A7c.